Hey everyone, Chuck from ChuckWagon MTG. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we bring you Cat and Pony Show, a white-blue standard deck. This deck was submitted by MTG Strategist. A link to his MTG blog can be found down below in the description. Cat and Pony Show is not only one of the most fun standard decks I have had the pleasure of playing recently, but it also does very well beyond just casual Magic, mainly because of its combination of synergy and the fact that it will catch your opponent completely off guard. Your opponent may very well take an exceptionally long time after round 1 trying to figure out just how in the heck they can possibly sideboard against you and your deck. Let's take a look at our creatures. We have 4 copies of Champion of Wits, a 2/1 Naga Wizard for 2 generic and 1 blue mana. When Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. It also has Eternalize of 5 generic mana and 2 blue. Exile this card from your graveyard. Create a token that is a copy of it, except it is a 4/4 black zombie Naga Wizard with no mana cost. Eternalized only as a sorcery. This card's main purpose is to draw us a few extra cards and provide some cheap early game blockers. Next we have 2 copies of Siren Stormtamer, a 1/1 Siren Pirate Wizard for 1 blue mana. Siren Stormtamer has flying and pay 1 blue, sacrifice Siren Stormtamer, counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. This guy is meant essentially to protect our other creatures and ourselves by his activated ability. We also have 3 copies of Sacred Cat, a 1/1 cat for 1 white mana that has lifelink and embalm. 1 white mana, exile this creature from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie cat with no mana cost. Embalm only as a sorcery. Next, we move on to the 2 creatures that make this deck shine and provide its namesake, Regal Caracal and Crested Sunmare. Regal Caracal is a 3/3 cat for 3 generic and 2 white mana. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. And when Regal Caracal enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. Crested Sunmare is a 5/5 horse for 3 generic mana and 2 white. Other horses you control have indestructible, and at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. Our next card is Arcane Adaptation, which we have 4 of. Arcane Adaptation is an enchantment for 2 generic and 1 blue mana. As Arcane Adaptation enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to their other types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. When we play this card, we're going to be naming either cat or horse. Most of the time, horse will be named on our first copy to make it onto the battlefield. It is at this point when your opponent, and possibly the players around you, will question your sanity. We have 3 copies of Authority of the Consuls, an enchantment for 1 white mana. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain 1 life. This will greatly slow down any kind of aggro decks, and it gets even better once you have Crested Sunmare out, making us a 5/5 indestructible horse any turn that your opponent plays a creature. We also have 3 copies of Ixalan's Binding, an enchantment for 3 generic and 1 white mana. When Ixalan's Binding enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Ixalan's Binding leaves the battlefield. Your opponent can't cast spells with the same name as the exiled card. This is going to be our answer to pretty much any kind of major threats that happen to come along. Next, we have 3 copies of Chart a Course, a sorcery for 1 generic and 1 blue mana. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attacked with a creature this turn. And we also have 3 copies of Opt, an instant spell for 1 blue mana that says scry 1 and draw a card. These are essentially here to help us get to the cards that will be used to assemble our board. And lastly, we have 3 copies of Negate, an instant spell for 1 generic and 1 blue mana, counter target non-creature spell. These are here simply to stop board wipes and to help interrupt those things that might prevent us from putting together our board. So ideally, turn 1 we lay an authority of the councils, turn 2 we play a sacred cat, then turn 3 we play an arcane adaptation, naming horse. Then on turn 5 we swing with sacred cat, gain a life, then after combat we play a crested sunmare. At the end of our turn we get a 5/5 horse that is indestructible because of crested sunmare. On our next turn, we can play a Regal Caracal, and, because of Arcane Adaptation and Crested Sunmare, it comes in and creates 2 1/1 cat horse tokens with lifelink and indestructible. We can also embalm our Sacred Cat that's probably in our graveyard, and make yet another indestructible cat horse with lifelink. Now, if we can keep all of this on the board, the next turn we can play another Arcane Adaptation, but this time we name cats. At this point, your opponent should realize kind of what's going on, while an onlooker or two whispers, "Holy crap, it's Cat Horse Tribal." Now, every creature on the battlefield has a +1/+1 and lifelink from Regal Caracal, and indestructible from Crested Sunmare. And as long as we can hit with one creature each turn and gain some life, we will get a 5/5 cat horse with +1/+1 and lifelink at the beginning of our end steps. As for our sideboard, it consists of 4 copies of Fragmentize, a sorcery for 1 white mana, destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less. This can be useful against artifact or vehicle decks, or any deck that runs Cast Out. We also have 3 copies of Fumigate, a sorcery for 3 generic and 2 white mana, destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. This can be great against aggro decks that outpace us in the beginning, and it's even better if we already have Arcane Adaptation and Crested Sunmare out, as all of our other creatures will then have indestructible. We have 2 copies of Gideon's Intervention, an enchantment for 2 generic and 2 white mana. As Gideon's Intervention enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Your opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and permanents you control by sources with the chosen name. This is a great way to shut down their win condition and is a beautiful answer to Carnage Tyrant. We also have 1 extra copy of Negate. This can be used for anything non-creature you want to avoid, but it's mainly there for the second time they try to cast Approach of the Second Sun. We have 3 copies of Solemnity, an enchantment for 2 generic and 1 white mana. Players can't get counters. Counters cannot be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. This is great against energy decks or anything that distributes +1/+1 counters, and it's also surprisingly good against Soulscar Mage. And lastly, we have 2 copies of Sorcerous Spyglass, an artifact for 2 generic mana. As Sorcerous Spyglass enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name. Activated abilities of sources of the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. This is just another precautionary card to help shut down pieces of their win condition, or to shut down threatening pieces such as Walking Ballista, Longtusk Cub, or Glorybringer, just to name a few. Well, that about does it for this standard deck tech. This one was exceptionally fun to play, and does surprisingly well even beyond a semi-competitive level. If you happen to play this deck in an event or just your kitchen table, let us know how you did down in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your thoughts on this deck. I'd like to give a quick special thanks to MTG Strategist for this unique and immensely fun deck. A link to his blog can be found in the description below. If you like what you saw here today, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share away. Share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers, and your pets. Everybody could use a little more magic in their lives. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, ChuckWagon MTG.